All right, for this problem, it's $2.40 for 15 markers. At that same unit price, how much is it going to cost for 40 markers? So the idea here, the big idea, is the unit price, which means the price for just one. In this case, it's the price for one marker. But if it could be anything, it could be you bought 12 cans of soda. How much does it cost for one can of soda? That would be the unit price. So whenever it's buying one thing, that's the unit price. Okay, the strategy we're going to try is equivalent ratios. Might show you another strategy as well, but let's start off with equivalent ratios. So remember, one way to write a ratio is as a fraction. So it could go like this. It's $2.40 for 15 markers. Remember, for the unit price, that means how much is it for one marker. So we want to change 15 markers to just one marker. Okay, so you might know that when you have a fraction, you're allowed to multiply or divide by anything you want to in the denominator as long as you do the same to the numerator. So in this case, we would divide. What can you divide 15 by so it equals 1? So 15 divided by something equals one marker. The answer is you divide it by itself. You divide it by 15. 15 divided by 15 is 1, so now it's one marker. And you're allowed to divide the denominator by 15 as long as you divide the numerator by 15 as well. And when you do that, that's going to tell you what is the cost for one marker. So let's go ahead and do $2.40 divided by 15. Okay, 240 divided by 15. Let's bring this decimal straight up. 15 doesn't go into 2. 15 goes into 24 one time. Multiply that and subtract. Bring down the 0. 15 divided into 90. That's going to be 6 times. And it's going to be 16 cents, 0.16. All right, so at this point we found the unit price. The unit price is 16 cents per marker. That's equivalent to $2.40 for 15 markers. Those are equivalent ratios. But now let's make another equivalent ratio. But this time, we changed 15 markers to one marker. Let's change one marker to 40 markers. Okay, so now the question is, how do we change one marker to 40 markers? Remember that you're allowed to multiply or divide anything you want to in that denominator as long as you do the same thing to the numerator. So this time, instead of dividing, we're going to multiply. What do you have to multiply by 1 to make it equal 40? That's pretty easy. 1 times 40 is 40. But if we multiply the denominator by 40, we're going to have to multiply the numerator by 40 as well to figure out what goes there. So we've got 16 cents, that's for one marker, times that by 40, that will be this number, the price for 40 markers. All right, so let's do 16 cents times 40. $6.40 is our answer. All right, so we did that with equivalent ratios. And we also did it with the unit price, meaning make the ratio with 1 in the denominator. So we started with 240 for 15, 16 cents for 1, and then got to 640 for 40. So we have 3 different equivalent ratios. I did talk about how maybe we'd look at another strategy, so let's take a look at another strategy. This is going to be to create a table. So we've done this with the previous problem. So the table could be how many markers and what is the price. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you can make this table. We talked about scaling up and scaling down. I'm going to skip a line there. I'm going to start with the given information. The given information is that 15 markers is $2.40. So 15 for the markers column, $2.40 for the price column. So we talked about scaling up, and we also talked about scaling down. I want to scale down first. So I want to talk about what number could you divide into 15 to make it smaller. And I'm looking at dividing this 240 by the same number to make that smaller. So I notice I could divide this by 3, 15 divided by 3, to make it 5 markers. All right, but if I divide the 15 markers by 3, I would need to divide 240 by 3. So you're only getting 1/3 of the markers, but it will only cost 1/3 of the price. So figure out how much is $2.40 divided by 3, and you'll find out that's 80 cents. So now this is not a unit price, because a unit price means how much for 1 marker. We have how much it costs for 5 markers. But in this version I'm going to show you right now, I'm kind of bypassing the unit price. So now the question is this. I know how much it costs now for 5 markers, but the goal is to figure out how much it will cost for 40 markers. So is there anything you can do to 5 to increase it to 40? And if you multiply or divide this side to get that to 40, you have to do the same thing over here to figure out how much money that would be. I know that 5 times 8 is 40. So if we're getting 8 times as many markers, it will cost 8 times the price. So times this by 8 to get it to 40, times this by 8, that should be the answer. So 80 cents times 8 is $6.40, which should have been the same answer we got by using the unit price and the equivalent ratios. So again, 2 different strategies there. Equivalent ratios, which is probably my favorite way to do it, but if you ever get stuck and you just can't think of a way to solve it, you could always come back to maybe a table will work. And in this case, a table does work. And remember, with tables, you can scale up or scale down. In this case, I started with 15, I scaled down to 5, and then I scaled up to 40. And there's different ways you could do this with the scaling that will all work. So there's no one table that's the right table to use. As long as you're using the table correctly, it'll get you where you need to go.